It's Tuesday. We're still talking bits and bytes and more technology conversations here on Prime Morning. This morning, I'm joined by Mr. Amanor Sackey. He is the immediate past president of the Information System Audit and Control Association, ISACA. I hope I had ISACA. ISACA. Is there a reason why it is ISACA and not ISACA? Well, ISACA sounds close to a name.
Possibly, but this is more American, so you know the Americans, everything I is ISACA.
Okay. Yeah, well, then that brings me more about tell me more about ISACA.
Okay, so ISACA is a professional body. It started as more, if you look at the name, Information Systems Audit. So it was a professional body for auditors, people who were looking at information systems, and today it goes beyond just that. So across the globe, we have 140,000 plus people.
Wow.
Where we come up with certification. So people who are systems auditors, security managers, risk professionals, governance, and now we have data privacy and cybersecurity stuff. And so we certify people. So you go through the courses and then come up with a certification. But then we also come up with curriculum, so which is used in tertiary institutions and so forth. Help people to come out. So by the time they finish the university, they transition into the workplace already having acquired the skills. So it's in certain places. And in other parts of the world, you have ISACA people who serve as subject matter experts in courts, for instance. So if there's a technical issue, an IT issue, a cybersecurity fraud, you can have an ISACA person serve as an expert with this, and the judge goes with it. And so we come up with all these educational programs for people and so forth.
Interesting, and that should tell you then you are very knowledgeable, I can say, in our conversation this morning. We're talking about the national identification cards and how technology is impacting that space as well this morning. Let's first off, let me start from the possibility of having an effective system of identification in this country, and is it possible, considering how we have all manner of classes of people in this country, and from the literate to the illiterate to the highly illiterate, is it possible for us to have an effective identification system in this country?
It's actually very possible. It is a must. Yeah, it is a must. And I use the must because I want to start from a certain point. If you take the Francophone countries, they have the carte d'identité. And all the Francophone countries actually have had national ID cards from time memorial. As far back as I started going to some of the Francophone countries back in late 90s, early 2000s, they all had national IDs. And so you could identify a Burkinabe or an Ivorian or a Togolese. In Ghana, we've had a bit of a checkered history when it comes to identification. Today, it is an imperative that we get it done. And so the National ID project, for me, I think it's a must. We need to intensify the education. We probably need to look at the structures well to make sure we have it. Because that is what we first use for planning. We need to identify that you are a Ghanaian, of course, or even if it's a foreigner, we still need to be able to identify you in country. And then you look at all the other interlinkages to services to help making business easy to do and so forth. So you definitely need the ID card. It is possible to do. And
how different is the identification system now with technology in mind from what we've had from back in the day? I thought back in the day was also a lot of had serious technology advancements in there.
I think that back in the day, it's still technology advancement. Today, what we have, I don't work for National ID, but I've looked at the card and I've looked at some of the features they talk about. The fact that the chip in there contains a lot more information than we had previously. And so we are able to, you go to any particular service, they're able to pick and then be able to identify, and they can pull out all the other information depending on the access that's given to them. So I think that that's a good thing. And if you remember when you are registering for your national ID, they asked you some information. First, somebody obviously confirmed that you're Ghanaian and so forth, or you had your passport and you registered. But then they asked for other details, so you can ask for your social security. I was there when I realized that SNIT had added my, I was told that my Ghana card had been added to SNIT or something to that effect. So you can have that, your driver's license, any other identification, so that with your Ghana card, suddenly we're able to track you across practically every service that is in the country. And I think that it is a good thing. I'll come to the cons of that.
Yes, which I was coming.
So from my perspective, it's good. And so we are supposed to be doing it. When you give birth to a child today from the hospital, the child should have an ID. So it's not the card that we're interested in so much as the fact that we have a unique identifier for you, which will live with you from when you are given birth to and then when you leave this earth.
How does the law govern with regards to data, the data that is being collected about people, data privacy laws? Is it safe? I don't know how to couch my question, but I'm very sure you understand where I'm trying to drive at with regards to the data privacy laws that govern. Is it secure enough for us to be able to share so much data about ourselves, to any entity?
Yeah, I think that we have all the laws. You have the data protection, okay. And in Ghana here, I would want to use the data protection because the data protection actually looks at personally identifiable information. So that's your full details. So like date of birth is a unique, something that is personal to you. Because if you call your bank, for instance, they'll ask you, what is your date of birth? Okay. So you don't want such information getting into the wrong hands. Your email address, your telephone number. These are information that it's supposed to be protected. And under our data protection laws, it is there. Okay. Now, there are two things that we need to look at. First, the education, the owner of the person who that data belongs to. In here, for instance, many people don't really care so much about giving out this information. So we give the information out freely. And that itself can be a problem. And that's why we talk about education. And in your earlier question, you said, how about the literate, illiterate? It has nothing to do with that. Irrespective of whether the person is literate or not, we should be able to have a message for each and every one of them who tells us that don't give out such information willingly. And that's how come we've had so many cases of people being impersonated or they call exactly. Now, two is those who process the information. So entities come into this place, for instance, you collect information from me. What is your name? I write my name, and so you go and you have that form, and I write my name, my phone number, email address willingly. Now, anybody who looks at that, we haven't gotten to that stage, but I think that we're getting there. Suddenly, I come and I take my smart device and I take a picture of that. I see a very interesting name. If I have an intention to do something, I can start fishing for that type of information, see what can I get from this person. And so if those who collect information are also obliged by the law to keep that information private. Yeah, okay. And so I've noticed the trend where some institutions now, today, you go there, they don't use the book anymore. They are using technology to capture, just so that you don't want anybody to know who has been coming in and out of the place. So it goes beyond just that. We give out business cards freely and so forth. And all that information is on there. And I'm pretty certain that if you check a person's bank account details, or say you manage to get all those information, you find those details with the bank. And that's why we have a lot of education to do.
It also raises the question about where is all this data stored? Are these servers housed in the country? Are these servers or this clouds being hosted outside the country? I just want to understand, probably to detail, where all this information goes to.
So today, as you sit now, okay, so we're talking identification, okay, so personally identifiable information. Practically every institution you deal with that collects information on you is keeping it somewhere, either on-prem, so on their premises. If they're using cloud services, it could be in the cloud here, or it could be anywhere else outside the country. You really have no idea where it is. Now, we haven't gotten to that stage where we say that personally identified information of Ghanaian citizens should be kept in country. The European Union, Germany in particular, is very particular about that. You can't keep personal information on Germans outside the EU. It has to be in EU. So all the cloud providers ensure that that's done. From our perspective, what we're interested in is making sure that you don't leak personal information of Ghanaians, it's not breached and people do not lose their information, because that's when the other things, the stuff that you don't want suddenly starts happening.
Do we have the infrastructure, per your experience, to be able to reach that point where every Ghanaian would have, a national ID so that has almost all the data that is needed, that can be presented on hand, if requested by any person of the law?
You know, I think that we have the infrastructure. You know, the infrastructure is...
well, probably what kind of infrastructure do we even need?
So the thing is, what's the infrastructure it requires? So apart from the servers, the back-end servers at National ID, those who would have to capture the information, so either the papers which you used to do, and then the guys who do the data entry, the biometrics, that infrastructure is there. I think that what we probably need is to resource them a little more and push them so that they cover everybody in the country, have a timeline to say, look, by this period we want to register every Ghanaian, and we should have had it done properly. So that, you know, we have a carrot and a stick type of approach. Now, one of the carrot and stick approach that I think that is going to happen, or is going to fast track this process, is the move by the Ministry of Communication to say that all people, all persons with mobile devices, so it could be even your modem, because there's a SIM in it, your phone, or whatever it is, would need to re-register those devices using the Ghana card. So it means that if you don't have a Ghana card, you would have to get one before you can do it. And so they're giving you certain timelines from October or so till March next year to have done it, 6 months. So my expectation is that within this next 6 months, we'll see a lot more registrations happening, and then we'll be able to get proper information on everybody from the telco point of view. What
risks are predominant or are very visible in our face with this project of identification?
No, so there are a few risks. You can also have fraud, okay? And the fraud could come from the sense that, let's say people are not diligent enough, and instead of capturing the person, or the person bringing the card himself or herself, assuming somebody takes it there and uses your card. Now the person with the SIM is suddenly you instead of who the rightful person is. But I believe that the mechanisms that are going to be put in place to ensure that the rightful owner is the one who is registering the SIM card. So those are some of the things that we probably are going to see. Besides that, I mean, if we use the technology properly, we shouldn't be having many of such instances.
You've probably already touched on this, but let's just bring it to just so that we can get viewers to understand the critical benefit of having, you know, of how technology, of the importance of having an ID card that has, you know, all this information on there. How does it directly benefit you, a citizen, not even from the fact that government is collecting data for its developmental projects?
Yeah. So as a citizen, I mean, the thing is, one of the keys, and let's use the financial sector.
Yeah.
I think that one of the challenges the financial institutions have is getting accurate information on people so that you can then start looking at loans and so forth and so forth, okay? And so, assuming you have everything done properly, if I walk into a financial institution that I need a facility, I need something for a business, at least part of the data they require, okay, they have more than 50% of the data which they can actually accurately vouch for and say this is correct. Now this works on the assumption that a Ghana Post address is also done properly, because don't forget that you require Ghana Post information on your ID. And so there's a certain you know, sense to what seems to be madness. You know, when we're asking people for Ghana Post and national ID, you actually want to do it. So in the long term, that's the benefit that you're going to have. Any service that you want to consume, for instance, because all institutions are mandated to use the national ID, they already, from their technical point, would have built interfaces to the national ID system. And so if I walk into a telco and I present that, I don't have to do all that data filling. They can quickly pull up all the information. They know this is Sackey, and immediately I can be serviced. So you cut out a lot of the bureaucracy that today we have. And I think that it helps everybody. You're going to school, you don't have to bring so much information. I go to the passport service, they immediately can pull out that information. In the future, probably, you get to voting age and you should be able to pull information from the national ID system to the Electoral Commission system because I'm above 18. Maybe it will be automatic. I don't know how it's going to work. And then from that point, they just need information on where I currently am and then add me to a particular district or whatever it is to vote. So those are some of the things that we're looking at.
Are there any conversations or probably existing systems where some of this data that we have is accessible by other international bodies that might require, you know, since now the world is a global village, does my Ghana card, for example, become relevant when I'm presenting something maybe in another country, for example, where I want to present data about myself, probably in a job application. Do our systems cross over to, or our systems that allow the data to be accessed by, some foreign bodies?
I think that in the long run, that's going to happen, because you should be able to verify that you're a Ghanaian. I remember using my old Ghana card, my old national ID, those times to do some, I can't remember what I was registering for, and I used that, and it's actually able to authenticate it. So in the long run, that's something that's probably going to happen. But I'm sure there will be checks and balances as to how much information they'll be able to pull out. Just for, you want to be able to verify, yes, I am who I claim I am, but you don't need all the other details that are private to me. I mean, if you don't need my driver's license, why do you need driver's license information and all that stuff? So those checks, I'm sure, will probably be there. So that's what draws the line between a passport and your ID. Your ID. Now, but the thing is, a passport is purely for travel. But you need something that you can use to identify yourself. And I'll give you an example why identification is important. And this is way back in, I think it was 2002. In Singapore, where I went to a shop. If you remember those times, in 2002, Visa cards were new here, and so if you had a card, your limit was very low, so you always had to carry dollars. And then I needed to change money, so I went to a shop, a little shop, very little shop, and I presented $100 bill, and I wasn't carrying my passport. So the lady in the shop asked me what my name was, and I gave my name, spelled it. That's when I realized that the counter actually had a monitor and a keyboard underneath it. So she put in my name, and immediately she told me the hotel in which I was. And then she took the $100 bill, scanned it, because the serial number, and put it there. She didn't have those ones that used to check counterfeit, the UV light. And that's all. And immediately it struck home. I was like, okay, so assuming I give a fake $100 bill, they know where I am, who I am, and they'll pick me up. But then it tells you the power of systems and why you need this type of thing, because from our perspective as technology people, you actually want to be able to leverage the investment we make in technology for the greater good of everybody. So if you're a business person, and this is a benefit that you can do, you don't need people to come up with all sorts of difficult things. Because I don't have that, I can't transact business. No, they'll find ways of doing it. And from the technology person's point of view, it opens up opportunities for you to be able to come up with innovative solutions so you make money, but the business person makes money, and the customer or the consumer also benefits because you're making it easy for them to transact. Carl, I know you don't speak for National Identification Authority or probably government at all, but when you look at where we've come from to where we are, what is left for us to be able to get done, for us to reach that point where the identification system becomes very robust and very effective? So I think that, if you look at Ghana today, and I don't speak for this institution, but I think that as a layperson, you call myself a layperson, from where I sit, we have quite a lot of work to do. We need to be able to bring birth and death in, because that's the originating point for ID, baby, and so forth. So we need to get them connected. And that information, obviously, I know National Health Insurance is connected to national identification already. I know financial institutions are connected to national identification education. And so we probably need education and then our health facilities, a few institutions. And then you probably are almost home and dry. Today we started with technology. If you go and register a card today, they require your national ID. And so we are kind of getting we're getting there. I'm sure give yourself 2 years, 3 years, we probably should be able to get it done. And we need to sustain the momentum. We need to resource them. It's an expensive. I was coming to that. It's an expensive. Yeah, it's just an expensive thing, but it has to be done. I mean, if you don't do that, really, then you have a problem, because you start and then you stop midway simply because we say it's expensive. But we have to do it, because look at every part of Ghana. Not every part looks attractive. Not every part has as many people as Accra, but they are Ghanaians nonetheless. And they have to consume services, and so we would have to definitely take the service to that place and get it done. You don't expect the poor farmer who is somewhere to have to come to the regional capital to do it, and that's why we'll see these expenses. So I'm not speaking for these institutions, but as a governance person, where you look at the benefit of technology and so forth, I think that it's something that we'll have to do. So we definitely will be getting there. Has it taken us too long to reach here, or it's just it's a right timing as we speak of where the world is going to? Even what COVID has done to us, where now it's raised awareness of possibility of working from home. Yeah, I think that we've taken a long time. I don't know all the reasons why. We've toyed with national ID on more than one occasion, but I think that this time, I think we can confidently say that we are forcing it to get done simply by the way we are pushing it through. And then we also have a champion for the national ID. And that's one of the things that brings success to projects. You need a project champion. So somebody who ensures that let's use the Ghana card to get it done. And so we, from ISACA's perspective, we are looking at the information systems. We look at how the technology works because we look for value from it, because I'm a Ghanaian, I pay tax. And so I want to see that the investment that's been made for the Ghana card, actually we get benefit from it. You are not going to, national ID is not going to make money, but I want to see it being used everywhere. Then I know that yes, we have value from it. Our second interest from ISACA's perspective, and most technology professionals, is to ensure that the system is robust and secure. Because if it isn't, then what we are presenting to people who are interested, hackers or people who are interested or for whatever reason, is treasure trove of information, potential 30 million identifiable people, and not only the national ID number, but all the other details that you've captured, the email address, phone numbers, passport number, driver's license. That suddenly becomes very scary.
Wow. Yeah. My final question on the lighter side would be to what is probably the one thing, before I wrap up, what is the one thing that you feel the national identification system can do for, or is being used in way advanced countries, that is so beautiful and unique, that amazes you every time you probably experience it or you hear about it?
I think that when you go to the advanced countries, and I'll give you two examples. From Asia, for instance, everybody can be identified. So you go to Singapore again, and I like that place. When a child is born today, they capture the national ID information. The national ID is generated for the child, and because they know who the parents are, they know the hospital. Immediately the child gets to a certain age, because the state, you have free education, the state immediately tracks after a certain period whether every child is in school. So if the child is not in school, they reach out to the parent, why is your child not in school? Wow. That's something that we should be looking at, because here we have what? The JSS, SSS, free school, free food and all that. These are all things that we can tie to this, and we can start planning and pushing for certain things to be done. It gives us a lot of information. If I'm a data scientist or somebody, I'll be smiling all the way to the bank. Interesting.
Well, we're having conversations with Carl Sackey this morning, immediate past president of ISACA. Thank you very much, sir. Yes. I really enjoyed this conversation as well. The importance of national identification, our ID cards, and how technology is playing a huge role in there as well. What even fascinates me is the last point you just shared, that yes, we should be able to track some of these things and enjoy all the benefits, something that we should all be looking forward to. Still, the show continues till 9 a.m. MFA comes up next.